then, you go in to eat, you had team meetings, right after that. So I literally had to run to get my food. I couldn't eat in the dining hall because I had to get back. So I had to literally run and eat every day. For the first, this was during summer camp, but for the first probably year, 2 years almost, I went through this. And whenever I tell this story and I'm speaking to people, I always lead with that, because nobody can relate to being a third generation professional athlete. I mean, that's just unheard of. And when I go to speak to people are always looking for a connection, a common bond. So I always start off with the pain, with the struggle, with where I was getting laughed at, where I couldn't eat with the team, where I was getting tossed around, where I couldn't even get into practice. I always start there because that's what connects people the most. That's what makes people relate. That's what opens people up. You say, oh my gosh, this guy is being this candid and vulnerable and honest about his journey. This makes me want to know more. And it's so much more engaging than if I just talked about how, I was recruited, number one in my class. Everything was easy. I was number 2. I was getting all these chances. They put me in. I was, the right height and weight you're supposed to be, and everything was just smooth. There's I don't have to explain the difference between the two stories, but this is what I lead with, because it bonds people and it lets people know that, hey, no matter what, can't wait around for anybody to hand you something. And you've got to put in the work. And not just for everybody else or to prove people wrong, but for yourself. To prove that, hey, my family did this, but I also have a body of work of my own. And now not only was I born, into it, but I am officially a part of that. And I can now pass the lessons that I learned and my own lessons down to the next generation. Because that's what it's about. It's about, I believe in this old saying that says the gifts aren't complete until they're passed down. And I really believe that. And I know I was given so much. I was fortunate to be around so much and to be able to get lucky enough to experience that. So now that's my new mission. My new mission is to pass down the lessons and the life skills that'll help take people from, bottom to top. It doesn't matter if you're a 6-team walk-on. When I walked out of there, like you said, I was ranked in the top 5.
I am just like, if you guys could see my mouth, it's just like in awe and jaw dropping, because that was just such a relatable, positive, although there was some negatives in there, I guess, in the sense of people making fun of you and whatnot, you kind of turned it into a positive of, okay, I didn't really like my experience at the beginning, but I still stuck with it. I worked hard. I knew that I had the natural gifted talent. I wasn't really at the weight that I needed to be at, but you worked so hard at it that you ended up walking out of college ranked in the top 5. So let me ask you this question, and then we'll switch over to pro for a little bit, and then talk about motivational speaking, because obviously you're excellent at it. So at what point did you realize and switch over from, okay, I don't really like this. I don't know if I want to do this. I'm getting made fun of. I'm not really the weight, but I know that I'm naturally talented and gifted. When did that mind switch into, okay, screw all of this. I'm going to kick butt. I'm going to be a 3-year starter. I'm going to have that 186 career tackles. Let's talk about that transition a little bit.
So it was the whole journey. And I always tell people, the work that you put in when nobody's watching, that's where it all happens. I mean, I was so far behind that I couldn't not work if I wanted to do it. So I started to look, and you could relate this to any kind of struggle. I started to look at the things I could control. I can't control that I'm on the 6th team unless, 4 or 5 people get hurt. I can't even get into practice to show anybody what I could do. There was one little piece of practice in the beginning. It was special teams. I was on it was called the Marauders. It was the punt block team. That was the only thing I knew I was getting in on. So I got out there early and I warmed up just for this period. It was only like a 5 to 8 minute period. It was short. And it was before everybody's kind of warmed out. People are just getting ready to get into practice. But I was out there, I had a full sweat. I was ready. I was ready. So I got known in the beginning for blocking punts. And I was, getting in fights because all the older classmen were like, listen, freshmen, you better chill out. This is the beginning of practice and you're going 900 miles an hour. And, in the beginning, I didn't say much to anybody. It was like, look, this is my only chance, my only opportunity. I have no choice. During that summer, I couldn't go and, have spring break and all that. I had to hit the weight room. And I didn't hit it easy. I hit it hard. For 9 weeks, I was doing doubles, sometimes triples, where I'd wake up, 8 to 10 was a workout. Then I would take a break, maybe a nap. Then I would go back and do another workout. And if I had any energy left, I would do another one. I came back that first summer, I think I gained maybe like 12 pounds. I started getting my respect a little bit, little by little. It took a long time. It took 2 years before I got any respect. I would get little respect from the people, some of the other linebackers that noticed, that this guy is putting in work. The rest of the team and the coaches, the special teams coach knew me because I was blocking punts. And I remember I hurt the punter once. So I was getting in trouble. But that was the only chance I got. So those little victories, those little small wins started stacking up on top of each other. Me living in the weight room was, those little gains were stacking on top of each other. And little by little, they started getting, growing and growing and growing. My weight started picking up. People started noticing. And, a little window open where 2 seniors left. And because of the work I did in practice, they were like, this is one of the guys we're going to give an opportunity to get this spot. It was between me and I think 3 other people. And as soon as I got that little sliver, man, I never looked back. I didn't even think I didn't even consider it a competition. I was like, which one of you guys is going to be my backup? Because this is mine. And, that mindset, I think, comes from who I was around. It comes from having, which I call a great vision, of something that's bigger than the adversity. Because when you have something worth fighting for, when you have something that's bigger than the adversity, then the adversity doesn't, hold you back. And when you have something, you have what I like to call treasure. When you have a reward that's just waiting for you, that's exciting enough. Adversity could come at you left and right, but you're still got something out in the promised land, shining in the distance, that's calling your name. And that's so much bigger when you properly craft it right. You craft this, and I teach this. I teach having 5 steps to properly crafting a vision. Because I went back and reverse engineered this. Because when I did start making it, reporters from all over were like, where did you come from? We didn't even know you were on the team. And I was like, well, yeah, because I was on the 6th team. Nobody would know I was on the team. They started asking me that question. I reverse engineered it. And now that's part of what I teach, on having a vision that's bigger. Because people let the adversity stop them. And I think it's not because they're lazy or people are unmotivated. I just think people just don't have a vision strong enough to pull them through. And when you have a vision that's giving you that forward lean in life, where you're every day you're ready to take on the challenges, and you're almost in a weird way excited. I was excited to work out. I was excited to be in the gym because I knew that was going to get me better. And I also knew that everybody else wasn't doing it. So I knew that big gap that I had to cover, being so light and so far behind, was slowly and surely moving along. And having that vision is the thing that really kept me going through all that. So the mindset was there. Were there days I want to quit? Absolutely. There was days I was ready to just hang it up, man. So, getting laughed at for the 10th week in a row, walking by everybody eating and not being able, that gets old really quick. So I was ready to quit so many times, but the vision, the clear vision, the treasure, the promised land in the future, that is what's going to keep anybody going.
I love that detailed story of perseverance because, again, from the start of us talking about college football, now we're going to be switching over to pro shortly. just you again from the start, like, again, knowing that you have that natural talent, but knowing that you were on the smaller side, but still persevering, getting yourself in the weight room, making sure that you were putting in that work, not enjoying your summers because you wanted to perform well. And that obviously tapered into you. 2007, you signed as an undrafted free agent by the Arizona Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Did you end up, I mean, I looked up your stats. So you said you were only like 180 pounds in college. Obviously, you packed on the weight.
Yeah, I finished. So my pro career, I was between 230 and 240.
Wow, so you packed on a ton of weight. Good for you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I really struggled with it. The only way for me to gain real weight was to get really, really strong. I had to. I mean, I came out of college benching, close to 500 pounds. It was ridiculous, but that was the only way I could gain weight. Otherwise, I just couldn't do it. So I had to live in the weight room so long because it's the only way I could gain weight. That was the only way I could compete. So coming from my big vision was to play at the University of Maryland, and anything after that, believe it or not, was kind of icing on the cake. When I went to Arizona, I knew I was one of the best in the country at that point because I'm always studying, I'm always measuring myself against the other competitors. So I still remember Lawrence Timmons and John Beeson were the two guys that I knew were better than me. I give it to them. They had some things. I had some things I did a little bit better than them, but overall, I was like, there's two guys better than me. Patrick Willis too. He was the other guy. So I was like, I'm sitting at number 4. I don't care if what round or if I don't. I know exactly where I am. And if you ask any of those guys, because I trained with 2 of them in the off season, they're like, this guy's a dog. So I went to the Arizona Cardinals, and for me, like I said, it was icing on the cake. Being and having the success I had in Maryland, that was my big vision. That's what I set out to do, and I did it better than I thought I could have done it. So going to Arizona was icing on the cake, and when I got there, it was funny. I was almost like, is this it? Like, is this the next level? It wasn't as exciting and intriguing to me as I thought it would be. And that happens when you get to a point, when you reach your vision, when you reach the promised land. That's one of the traps. If you don't set another one, you can get stuck there and you can get depressed there if you stay there too long. And that's why analogy I always like to use is when the astronauts, when they would go to the moon and they would come back, a lot of them would have, they would be depressed. They would turn to vices because now that you've been to the moon as an astronaut, what are you going to do now?
Yeah, it's like, what do you got left? You already made it to the top.
You know what I mean? So another thing I teach is as soon as you reach the first vision, celebrate that. Thank everybody for helping you get there because success is never achieved alone. So many people helped me. Yes, I was a walk-on, but there's tons of people that helped me. Yes, I had to do the work, but so many giants that I stood on and so many giants that helped me along the way. So when you get to that point, you acknowledge that, you celebrate that, but you don't linger there too long because you get stagnant. You get complacent. There's no challenge. One of my catchphrases I use is hunting greatness, because when you hunt something, you catch it, you enjoy it only for so long until you start getting hungry again and you have to go on another hunt. And that's a good segue into what I'm doing now. But going back to Arizona, it was icing on the cake. I was happy to be there, got to Arizona. And again, the challenge for me was that it was a joke. Arizona was a losing organization. When I first got there, I remember it was Christmas and my brothers and sisters got sports cards and they're all laughing in the background. They had me on speaker. And one of the jokes in the cards was, I never forget, how many Arizona Cardinals does it take to fix a flat tire? And I was like, whatever, all these siblings laughing in the background. And I'm like, what? They're like, the whole team, because it's another blowout. And
my gosh.
These were, they got a good laugh at me and, younger siblings that are out there listening. Having a good laugh at your older sibling is always a lot of fun. So I'll let you guys have this brief moment. But Arizona Cardinals, it was a joke. I mean, the owner didn't really care too much. The facility wasn't that great. The community wasn't really behind people. But when I got there, there was a guy there, Hall of Famer, that has another amazing underdog story. His name was Kurt Warner. And if you don't know who that is, please look that up. I did an interview with him on my YouTube channel, and a grocery bagger 1 year, and I think 2 years after that he was working in the grocery store, he's a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, amazing story. Please Google that if you don't know who he is. But he was there. And I used to sneak into, I always was studying. I was a quiet guy, and I wasn't really a loud guy in the locker room, but I was very observant. And I would always study people, especially people that were good on paper, or I thought they were good because I've seen them on film. And I remember I was sneaking the back of Kurt's film rooms when we had time off. And I wouldn't say anything. I would just watch what he watched and listen to what he was talking about. And after a while, he invited me up and he would start teaching me what he's looking at. So I was learning my position from a new perspective. And I remember rookie year, your entertainment during the holidays, Christmas. My birthday's December 4th, so I had to be entertaining then. So family time really don't get any when you're playing football. So he invited me over to his house for Thanksgiving. We started talking, started to get to know each other. We were both super, super underdogs, and that's what really connected us when we learned I was a 6-team walk-on. You know, I had to do all this work to get to where I was. And so we related. We were like, hey, let's use this. Let's use our underdog mentality background and flip this thing around in Arizona, because we know how to do it. You're a new guy coming in. You bring up the bottom. I'll take the lead at the top. We had a ton of talent on that team at the time. Anquan Boldin was our leader. We also had Larry Fitzgerald. We had Edgerrin James. We had an amazing defense. Antrell Roll. We had Adrian Wilson. He was a monster. And nobody really knows who he is because he was out in Arizona. But look him up too. Crazy. He used to challenge me. He'd say, get 10 yards apart, and just me and him on the goal line. He'd give me the ball, and he'd say, okay, just me and you, we're going to run into each other as hard as we can and see who ends up with more points at the end. That's how crazy he was. But anyway, getting back on topic, we sat down in the living room, and it was just me and him. We said, let's craft a vision for Arizona. And kid you not, less than a season after that, Arizona was in the first Super Bowl in franchise history. And that all started with, some 180-pound, 6-team walk-on who couldn't even get into practice, and a grocery bagger who was stocking shelves, to get by. So that's the power in mentality, in who you surround yourself with, in some of the lessons that I teach now. And this isn't coming from first-round draft picks and number one recruits and parade All-American this, and this is coming from the underdogs. And that's what made that season so special. And I'll tell you, when I first went to Arizona, I was trying to get the family gear to send home. And my dad came out, and we went to a local sports shop. And we walked up to the guy, and we asked him, where can we get gear for the family, Arizona Cardinals? This was in Tempe, Arizona. And the guy before he answered us, he brought over his coworker, pointed at us, and said, get a load of these guys. They're Arizona fans. And this was 2006, 2007. And I was getting laughed at just for trying to buy a shirt in Tempe, Arizona, 2 miles from the complex.
Oh, my gosh.
And now when we go back, I mean, there's decals, there's stuff everywhere, but it all started that first Super Bowl run. And, I was proud to be a part of that, because the bigger picture of it was we turned, the community, just like my grandfather did with Boston and the Big Bad Bruins, nowhere near that level, but we gave a lot of people in the community a little bit of love, peace, and hope of seeing the little Arizona Cardinals that shouldn't have been there all of a sudden in one of the best Super Bowls people have seen against the Steelers. And no, we didn't win, but the amount of joy, hope, and enthusiasm that we gave to Arizona and underdogs all around was something that will live with me forever. You know, very proud of that little piece of that legacy because of all the inspiration we're able to give to so many people. To this day, it's fun going back there and seeing the decals and Arizona Cardinals at the stores now, because it wasn't before. There was nothing there.
Sounds like you are both a mover and a shaker, not afraid to, again, take that leadership role, speak your mind, put in the work, get things done. And again, I just want to congratulate you. I know the BosBabes fanatics that are listening to this BosBabes Lifestyle Sports podcast episode, you can't help but be motivated by listening to your story. And again, I think it's incredible because I think what sticks out to me the most out of everything is you are very humble. It's not you being like, oh yeah, my grandfather this or my dad this. It's like, we also are educated. We've done this, we've done that. I've had to work my way up to get to where I'm at. So I think I admire that about you the most, because some people in your position would freaking like ride their family's coattails and be like, yeah, I'm Tom Brady's son, or I'm so-and-so's grandson or daughter or whatever. And you're just like, you know what? Yeah, these people are a part of my family and they're very successful and I learned a lot from them growing up, but we are all so much more than that. And on top of it, I had to freaking work to where I'm at. I had to bust my ass to get to where I'm at. And I think that is what I love about this podcast episode the most, is how humble you are. So let's hop right into it, because we've been discussing football and I know people have been fully enjoying it, learning all about you and the fact that you grew up locally in Newton, Massachusetts. You spent some time in Maryland and New York and California. Mm-hmm. And here we are, motivational speaking. So you went from being a college athlete to a pro athlete, and you are talking about chasing the dream, going hunting, not being stagnant. So how did you go from being a pro athlete and wanting to be a motivational speaker? I looked at your website. So if you guys are interested, davidholloway.com. It is very inspirational. He has a ton of photos and videos. And I actually listened to a really great interview. I don't know if it was really an interview, but it was more of like a pump up video, like a hype video about you. But people were saying that you were, quote unquote, born to empower others. You teach individuals and businesses how to thrive. You speak to those that are looking to make the, quote unquote, impossible happen. So let's hop right into it. Motivational speaking.
Listen, this is my new passion now. So getting into it, I remember my dad had done it for a while, and so I would sit and watch, but there's a whole different art to getting up on stage, and there's no team, so it's just you. So there was a lot I had to learn. And the reason I got into it, I'll tell you, the real reason I got into it was because when I started getting asked all the way back in Maryland, when I was becoming a star there, people would say, where did you come from? How did you do it? You were a walk-on. And I really had to think about it. I was like, how did I do this? How did I keep pushing through? And it was very simple. I told people it's because of the vision. But, a lot of people, that's a lookover point for them. People write it off. They think it's just some vision board where you cut out pictures of a magazine and post it up, and that's supposed to just make everything happen. But it's not like that. I'm not hating on vision boards anyway. They're very important. But you've got to make it more specific to you. It's got to be something you live, breathe, feel. You could picture yourself there. You could smell and taste the environment of what it's like when you're actually living it. That's a real vision. And I started telling people the story of where I came from. Everybody's like, you know what? You should tell this story because it's motivational. And I would get messages on Facebook of people where it was a true story. There were people, the story got so big because of what I was doing at Maryland. People were actually dropping out of college, wherever they were at, to come to the University of Maryland just to try to do the same thing. just to get a shot, just to try to model what I was doing. I mean, that was pretty humbling that people were trying to do that. I never thought it was going to be that big, but it was during that time where people were like, your stories motivated me. They would send me letters and messages saying, asking for advice. Where did you come from? How did you do it? And that's how I started telling my story to people, and it just kind of took off from there. And there was definitely an art form you have to learn on when you get on stage. You have to learn how to your body language. You have to learn tonality. You have to learn how to read the crowd, how to work the crowd, how to do your own marketing and selling when you're on stage, how to tell stories and keep people engaged if they hate sports. So there's a whole art to it that I'm still learning and going through all the time. But it's something I really enjoy. I'm passionate about it. I love teaching other people the skills, the life skills it takes to reach that vision, to reach that next level of greatness, to reach peak performance in whatever you're doing, and to overcome adversity, to work together as a team, even if the community or people are laughing at you. The funny thing is when because I've done it and taught it for so long, when people have their backs up against the wall, those are the people I like to work with. Those are the people I want inside my huddle, because I know they're going to be the hungriest, and I know all the things that I'm able to teach them is going to help them get to that next level. So to get into that career path, you've got to start just like anything else. You've got to start studying. You've got to start working on writing your own personal story. You want to start with the adversity. You want to start with the struggle, because that's where people relate and really open up to who you are as a person. And I teach this. I'm having a membership on my website, davidholloway.com. I'm launching a membership site where people can join me once a month, and we're going to go live like this for an hour. There's going to be Q&A at the end. We're going to have some fun. There's going to be some special guests. We're going to do a lot of teaching. So I'm a teacher at heart, and there's a lot of teachers in my family. So I'm breaking out the whiteboard, and we're doing step by step, and I'm breaking things down on how to tell your best stories, what kind of questions that'll help facilitate your thinking on getting to the edges of your mind, stories you might have forgotten about in the past, or stories of pain that you might not want to share that will really get you into sharing some of your best stories, how to package it, how to present it, how to tell it in an engaging way that people can relate to. So I'm starting that membership. It's launching next month. So that'll be an easy way to get access to everything I do now. But also, my website, YouTube channel, social media, those are all ways where I'm going to help teach how to get into that industry, and again, how to work your way to the top, because that's what I know how to do. That's what I've been around. I know how to come from behind and end up on top. Yes, does it take a lot of work? Absolutely, but there's steps you could follow that'll help you get there. The only thing that you have to come with is the desire, baby. I can't give you the desire. If you don't have desire to get up and go to work when nobody's watching, you don't want to have desire to craft a vision that's going to help elevate you. And the cool part about it is when you yourself elevate, even though it sounds selfish, you bring so many other people up with you. So many other people get inspired. So many, being the oldest sibling, so many siblings looked at that and used that as inspiration. So many people watching sports that you never would have even known look at that and get inspiration from that. So you people out there, if you're just starting your vision, I'm telling you, get engaged, study people that are doing it, and realize there's so many other people you're going to affect as you chase, like I say, as you go hunt for your greatness.
So freaking incredible. I know people that are listening to this podcast episode are getting hyped up, getting motivated. This is probably one of the most motivating podcast episodes I've done. And don't get me wrong, we've had a lot of fantastic people on this show, but not many people get this hyped up and motivated or trying to motivate others. So again, I appreciate you coming on here. And I know that people are going to want to follow you on social media. How exactly do you impact others' lives? I know you kind of already talked about it, but can you go a little bit more deeper into how do you positively impact people's lives? And do you work more so with big groups of people? Because again, I looked at your videos. It looks like you work with a lot of big like Fortune 500 companies and highly successful people. But do you also work with kids in high school or younger kids that might need some motivation?
Oh yeah, I do. Mainly, I'm in the corporate world. That's where the most teaching is, and that's what I love. But I do high school. I've even done elementary, and each audience brings its own fun. Even the elementary kids. I remember I showed them this play I had where I jumped over Darren Sproles and I sacked the quarterback, and the kids looked at it and they raise their hand afterwards. I'm doing Q&A, and they say, how do you fly? Teach us how to fly. And those kind of questions just kind of humble you and realize, these are kids and they're asking real questions. And even them seeing that as motivation. And I told them, I actually did the math on this, on how many squats it takes. This was like a middle school group. Squats or leg exercises you have to do. And it was in the high thousands. And I never forget, there was 2 kids that got up from where they were sitting, went to the back of the class and started doing squats already, and we're counting them out. I mean, the kids are a ton of fun, but I do all kinds of group, but mainly corporate, because they have the big teams. They need, it's highly competitive, and I'm out on the road. Obviously COVID changed that, to which, helped me, just transition into something I've been meaning to do for a while, but it's something that I really want to do. And just go online and go live with people and do my trainings there, because like I said, we go step by step, and this is peak performance, baby. This is hunting greatness. This is getting you to your highest levels of output, highest levels of your biggest dreams. And we do it not by accident, but by careful design. So if you want any of that, we're gonna put the links in below, and follow me if you're ready to go on that journey, because it's going to be a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to be easy, but what I will tell you is that I'm going to break it down and make it simple, and we're going to get to peak performance. That's what it's about. Everything I've been around my whole life, what I've done, all the people, all the giants that I stand on, like I said in the beginning, the gifts aren't complete until they're shared. And I have tons of gifts to share, but he called me Santa Claus up in here because I've got
Oh my gosh, I loved that.
to share. And I'm so glad we connected, and I was able to riff about that for a little bit. But I get excited about that because that's my new mission now.
That's so fantastic. I love the fact that we talked about the motivational speaking. And again, it goes hand in hand with the pro sports, because I feel like most pro athletes, whether you're that quarterback or you're the goalie or whatever position you're playing, you have to play some type of a leadership role, and you have to be confident in what you do. So totally makes sense that both you and your dad are also motivational speakers. And before we wrap up the show, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. But charity work, for those of you guys that listen to the BosBabes Sports podcast, you guys know that I love talking about charity and how my special guests give back to the community. So David, I understand that you have worked with a number of different programs like Classrooms for Champions, the RFK Human Rights, and Overtown Youth Projects. So let's talk about those different programs that you have worked alongside, and how have you helped them out, both either gain money or raise awareness to those programs?
Yeah, so one of the things, there's so many more, but these are kind of the 3 main ones that I've been working with recently. Classroom for Champions is getting me live, teaching kids the importance of health, nutrition, working out. And these are young kids. These are elementary, middle school kids. And the lady who approached me, she has an amazing underdog story too. Her name is Emily Cook, and she's an Olympian. And on one of her trial runs, she broke her feet and had an amazing comeback story. But she's one of the leaders of it. And I go live and I help kids just be another voice of how important it is to take care of your health, mental and physical health, especially during the pandemic when so many things got shut down. The Overtown Youth Project is special to me because in the off season I lived in Miami, Florida, and Overtown was, it's kind of a legend of it. Anybody who's down there knows Overtown. And one of my friends who's also NBA Hall of Famer, Alonzo Mourning, He's on the Miami Heat for a long time, does so much work. And he asked me to come help out, raise awareness, be a part of it. And again, it's for kids. It's to give kids proper education in a low-income area and give people to come around to inspire them, to tell them stories about how they can make it, overcoming the obstacles, to tell them they're bigger than any adversity they face. Because there's so much wasted talent in the world and in the United States. If you really think about it, all the wasted talent that goes through, these are some of the organizations that really help try to reach these kids and give them the proper guidance and let them know that, hey, there's people here that care about you, there's people here that care about your future, and there's people that are willing to fight for you to help. So those are two of them. The RFK human rights, I go back, my family and the Kennedy's family goes back all the way to my great grandfather was in the presidential cabinet working with RFK, and we've always done work side by side. And the human rights is worldwide, just fighting for human rights. And I mean, there's some unbelievable stories you hear about people that don't have, I mean, we get spoiled here in the United States and a lot of the first world countries that have no idea some of the human rights and people that are just getting abused or taken advantage of all over the world. So this is an organization that goes in some of those tough spots and really tries to fight for human rights. And it's an amazing organization. All three of them are. And I'm super happy to be connected with them. I'll be connected with them, best buddies. There's a bunch of them I'll be connected with for as long as I'm breathing because, like I said, I was very fortunate to grow up where I did and who was around me. And, I have a big responsibility to make sure more kids that aren't that fortunate still have some of the same opportunities or people that can come around and help them out.
David, I got to ask you about your freaking game day eats. What do you like to eat when you're just hanging out, whether it's with your parents, with your friends? Do you like to go out and get pizza? Do you like a specific type of beer? I love ending my show with game day eats and positive pop, especially after such a great show like we just had.
Good eats. Listen, I'm very simple when it comes to game day eats. I wish I had more of like a fun answer, but I'm pretty basic. If more game day meals, I'm usually eating like chicken or pasta or some kind of veggie. I drink a ton of water. It's pretty boring. I hate to end on a boring note, but as long as, listen, you talked about my other siblings. I'm the leader of the pack, and they're all, I mean, they don't have this mindset. They chose to ride the coattails. They're just sitting here letting everybody else lead them, and they're being bums. So I just wanted to throw that in there. As long as they're not cooking anything for me, I'll be happy with any kind of game day meal that I'm getting. And I'm totally kidding. I'm just having some fun. But game day meal, easy. You know what's funny? I don't like beer. I don't like wine. A couple other drinks I like here and there. I wish I had more of a cooler answer, because I've traveled all over the world and I've tried some really weird things, but pretty basic: water, pasta, chicken parm, lasagna, salad, and if it's in the morning, I'll just eggs, toast, just basic stuff. I'm pretty simple when it comes to that.
I mean, that's totally cool. It sounds like it's basic, but also healthy because, I mean, having that athletic background, I guess your foods aren't that weird. You get your carbs, you get your protein in there, you have a lot of water to keep your muscles moving and flowing. Totally makes sense. Your game day eats. You like to eat healthy, especially if you don't like alcohol. Positive pop. This whole freaking episode has been one big, long positive pop. But if you can wrap up the whole show with one either positive sentence or one positive saying or affirmation or mantra, what is David Holloway's positive pop?
My positive pop is a slogan that I teach, that I live by, I usually end my videos with, and that is, and everybody listening, listen to this. I want you to listen up take a pen and pad out, write this down. To keep going out there every single day, hunting your greatness inside and out. And I explained what I meant by hunting greatness is. When I say inside and out, outside, I want people to hunt for greatness, whatever they're chasing, whatever that next level of greatness is for them. If they're on the bottom reaching for the stars, do that. If they're already at the stars reaching for the next, do that. Whatever the next level is for you, that's hunting greatness out. On the inside, hunting greatness is personal development. Hunting greatness is your mindset, peak performance. Hunting greatness is all the things that I'm going to launch next month in my membership site. All the personal development, peak performance that you could work on your inside, especially when things are closing down. And during this pandemic, I mean, I went into student mode. My mentor always used to say, school is never out for the pros. And I really believe that. No matter how good you are, you could always get better. You always be a student of life. That's what hunting greatness on the inside is. And AKA, what does that all mean? That means from the great movie Shawshank Redemption, either get busy living or you get busy dying.
That is some excellent positive pop and a fantastic way to end this highly motivating podcast episode. Honestly, I could not thank you more for coming on here today. And I look forward to maybe having you back on in the fall to kind of talk about how your membership program's going, maybe some other fun things will be happening. Maybe you'll have some merchandise coming out. I love to have my special guests on here more than once, especially to keep people updated. It's almost like my podcast at this point is kind of like a reality TV show in a way, because I like my people to get to know, like I love the BosBabes fanatics to get to know my special guests more than once. I want you guys to be reoccurring on this podcast and be like, hey, what's up? Last time you were on here, you guys learned this, and this about David, and now he's doing this, and this. So again, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. And shout out your social media one last time. That way people can follow you, and your website one last time.
So website super easy, davidholloway.com, HOLLOWAY. Any social media is at DX and my last name Holloway. So, my Facebook, Instagram, I don't really do Twitter too much, but those are the two main ones. My YouTube channel is /hunting greatness, where I have some cool interviews on there. But I'd be happy to come back on. I mean, since I've been, I was in the NFL for like 3 or 4 years, but I've been involved in pro sports my whole life. So I have tons of stories. What we heard today and what I shared today, I mean, that's like 0.01% of some of the stuff, good and bad. Me getting laughed at and me riding on the coattails.
Definitely look forward to having you back on here. Again, BosBabes fanatics, I'm your host, Brittany Baldi. Thank you so much for listening in and tuning in and following us on Spotify and iTunes. You guys absolutely rock. And again, please continue to follow David on his social media and his website, because he's going to help kick your booties into gear, get you motivated, and get it popping. Thank you so much, David.
Oh, you're so welcome.